Mark here for another great Wisdom and Knowledge 5 podcast episode. Well, today I obviously want to break down what's going on in the world because so much is happening. But I want to start out by, giving you a little taste of my experience and why it has brought me to where I am today, standing up for humanity, standing up for all that is right in the world. Uh, because I'm somebody who, back in the day, I wanted to get into acting, so I did a lot of work as a background uh, extra, you name it, on TV shows. And when I came to the realization, and that not everything is propaganda, not everything is predictive programming in Hollywood, but when I started seeing them cast me for something completely different than what I was being casted for before, which was, all different kinds of roles, and I'll show it in the clips. Uh, I said, nah, this isn't for me. I'm not gonna play this game. I don't stand for this. And not only with the acting thing, I also have experience. I worked in pharmacy. So as someone who stands for natural health, someone who stands for, eating healthy, and someone who personally doesn't use prescriptions, doesn't, uh, use vaccines, I want to give you a little story why. And I got into, working in a pharmacy before I got into natural health, and I wanted to work in a pharmacy because my dad was a pharmacist. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is a great opportunity for me to work in a pharmacy. So worked as a pharmacy associate and then got grandfathered in and just became a tech, pharmacy tech. Yeah. Through getting enough service hours. Anyways, I want to share a video to start things out. That way you can get a grasp of, who I am, the experiences I've had, and why I do a podcast speaking out for humanity, standing up for all that is good. So let me start out by sharing this video clip. And here we go. Now, this was a TV show, Wisdom of the Crowd, and look at this. I'm right up in the middle of this. I was at the beginning. And that was right before, uh, right after the 2016 election. Now, it was like the scene was like they will not replace us, white nationalists. Something that I do not stand for at all. And with these TV shows, you can't just like cancel. And some of them, you get there and you don't even know what you're doing until you get there and get up in the scene. And if you cancel, you'll be, wrapped for good. And I didn't, it was just when I started to, say, hey, look, this is completely turning south, and that it's not, where I was playing pedestrian, I was playing FBI, I was playing lawyer, concert goer, you name it. And I'll show, pictures of that. But and then here is another scene too. And it's funny, they did the scene on a Halloween, and I don't know why they did, but it's the TV show The Mentalist. The star actor guest starring in it is, let me see what his name is. Uh, Here we go. Malcolm McDowell is the actor's name.
Witness my ascension from this world to a world beyond. Do not mourn me, my children, for this is not a passing, but a departure. And I promise I will return. Jane.
And that was like some type of ritual. And obviously, so the all-seeing eye and blood, before they threw blood on her head, they put it on her face in the scene. And, again, something, and I remember that well, that there was a Christian working on the show, and they were like, "No, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. This is crazy." And me, I didn't know any better. I was, and you can't, like I said, you can't just leave. If you leave, you'll be canceled by Central Casting for good. You'll be blackballed. You can't do this anymore. And it was a one scene on The Mentalist, and who would have thought that they're showing this on prime time, network TVs, scenes like this. But yes, these do happen. Now, this next scene is from The Last Ship. This is about Michael Bay TV show on TNT where all of humanity was like wiped out by a pandemic. This is in 2015. And it's funny, the first season, I was one of the, people who had the plague or whatever it was, and I was left to die. The next season, I'm brought back, and I'm in this scene as a White House staffer in the background, and the White House is in St. Louis. But check this out.
Was here. There are at least a dozen reasons why we might not have heard from them. Most likely they went to Amcon.
I'm in the background over there.
It's protocol in the case of imminent threat.
Right there.
Most likely they went to
And this is the picture of me at the pharmacy. And funny, okay, so I worked in Studio City and I worked at then I transferred over to, they transferred me, I should say, over to the one in Sherman Oaks, which was down the road. This is from the Charlie Sheen, aka Charlie Sheen, the biography that he did on Netflix. And this is the CBS that I was working at when I was working there, in the time era that I was working there. And yes, he was one of the customers in the pharmacy. I never personally saw him. I know he was in the system. My coworkers saw him, but when he had that, when he got fired from Two and a Half Men, this was that time. So, when I was working in the pharmacy, I was, meeting a lot of these celebs types. I remember Kaylee Cuoco from The Big Bang Theory. She came in once to pick up her prescription, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was on that show." And she totally denies and says, "Nah, that's not me. I'm her sister." Well, anyways, whatever, but I thought it was pretty, unique to see this in the Charlie Sheen biography, him coming out of the CBS that I worked at in Sherman Oaks. And I want to give like a little backstory. I worked in the pharmacy for 4 years, became a pharmacy service associate starting out, and then grandfather in to being a tech. And one thing we had to do every weekend is near the end of my time there, uh, is we had to make refill calls. We'd have to call and try to, you know, con customers, patients, you name it, into getting medications that they're no longer taking. Because it's all about profits. It was completely about profits and not about health, in my opinion. And if you want to take prescription drugs, hey, do your own thing, do your thing. But what I was doing was pure deceit, and I didn't know any better. I was unknown. You know, I wanted to get out of that field because I was uh, big into learning, natural health and such. But we would call, like normally caretakers would pick up and say, "Hey, does such and such need this medication filled?" And it would be something that they're not even taking anymore. And a lot of times it was so sad because a lot of times the caretaker would be like, you know what? They'd be so confused that they'd be like, you know what, just fill it. We'll come pick it up. And it isn't. not right. I was times when there was a flu shot clinic and somebody was screaming at the, pharmacist, you didn't tell me there was having, you didn't tell me all these ingredients were in, and she was pregnant and all this stuff. And it was, there was a lot of stuff that you know, that I don't stand for. And luckily I was able to get out of that and get into, something else. And it's just, so I have a voice. I can speak out. I can say, look, this is not legit. This is not right. Because I stand for health. I stand for humanity. Uh, anyways, that's my backstory on my experience in, working in a pharmacy. And like I said, I got into it because my dad was a pharmacist, but me, I'm polar opposites. I'm into natural health. I'm into, you know, taking care of your health your own way, healthy eating, you name it. But anyways, let's get back to this video clip. And this right here, this is my good friend Don in LA. And Don is, yes, his name is Don Johnson. He actually, his cousin is best friends with Charlie Sheen, Tony Todd, and he's all over that documentary. But and Don and I, we worked at a lot of the same places. We, hung out a lot. And yeah, so there's that. And there's a picture of me in Chicago. And with everything, especially with Chicago being affected, with martial law, you name it, whatever's transpiring there, you gotta, me personally, you know, Chicago has a place in my heart because I live there. You know, uh, made great friends there, had a great experience there, and did a lot of great things there, so it's really sickening to see what's going on. But as someone who is against the political nonsense, you know I don't take it from political aspect. I take it from, hey, we need to stand up as humanity and unite together. So, and this right here, there was a lot of times when I would just pop into meeting celebrities, you name it. This is legendary, and I'm not a big, sports guy like I was, but this is legendary NFL Hall of Famer, Chicago Bears, Dick Butkus. He was also an actor, did a lot of acting when his NFL career was over. But lo and behold, I was in, college taking courses at Santa Monica College, part of the Rotaract Club, and we're, volunteering at one of the Santa Monica Rotary uh, Club members' houses in Malibu, overlooking the, Pacific Ocean. And who's his next door neighbor who I sit and chat with for about 15 minutes, legendary, Hall of Famer Dick Buckus. And I grew up a Chicago Bears fan. I was a big Dick Buckus fan for his acting too. And lo and behold, I met him and talked to him for about 15 minutes. So that's the story on that. And there was a lot of times, there's been a lot of people that I've met, you know, throughout my life. And it was just happenstance. I mean, I wasn't expecting to see, and Dick Buckus at a party I was volunteering at for, in college. So, and this right here, this is more my acting. This was on Superstore. They were having an episode about guns and gun rights or whatever it was, being able to buy guns at this Walmart type store. And lo and behold, Chris Farley's brother, Kevin Farley, was in the episode. Uh, and see, there should be a picture of me right there. That was what I looked like. And here's some more pictures of me, so on TV shows. This was CSI New York. I played FBI, a Hooli employee, which is basically like Google. It was on Silicon Valley, the HBO TV show. This was Code Black, uh, right there, Bones. Gilmore Girls. Right here, this was Ray Donovan. I played at the referee over there. This was a ABC TV show. So you can see I've done all types of different roles. This was very interesting because this was CSI, NCIS LA, the one that LL Cool J's on. And it was like we were hostages up in this building in Century City, and it was supposed to be like a Irish ISIS type, you know, thing holding us hostage. And that episode wound up being about saving a vaccine. Hmm. Yeah. It's and when did, the world become so obsessed with these lethal vaccines, really makes you wonder. This Is Us with Marla Gibbs from the Jeffersons 227. And I grew up watching 227. So uh, it was something because that episode I was able to, in between scenes, which you normally don't speak to the principal actors, actresses, but I was able to, chat with her for a minute and super nice. Like not everyone's part of the club, not everyone's this, that, and the other. And this was Scream Queens. This was filmed at house outside in the neighborhood of Paramount Studios, and it was supposed to be John Stamos' house, and he gets his finger cut off by the garbage disposal, and it was a Super Bowl party between the Seahawks and the Patriots that Super Bowl. And me, a lot of times I play video camera operator, you name it, me in Chicago. So anyways, you know, that's the experience I bring to the table. I speak out about humanity because, I care about humanity and I'm sick of this divide and conquer game. I'm sick of the way that, you know, the world is being run. Stand against, the globalists, stand against, the elites running things, political nonsense, conquer and divide. And that's why I interview people from all over. That's why I share my experience, bring it to the table, because when you see things like, martial law happening in your own country and your rights being trampled on left and right, and people worshiping the one who is, you know, uh, trampling on your rights or being sucked up into the cult, so to speak, and it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, that's not the solution. The solution is humanity. Stand for each other. Stand for each other. Stand up while you still can. Because the next step, digital ID, which has already happened, Europe, UK, you know, that is a total enslavement. And we must resist the digital ID, hands down. And we must comprehend what that really means. You know, so for anyone who's into the political game, get yourself sucked out of it because humanity is where it's at. Standing up for humanity, standing up for human rights, standing up for all that is right. That's what it is. You know, this is an end game for humanity, but we outnumber them. We shine. We have the power to be a light in this world. And that's what it takes is doing the opposite of what they want. They want they want to divide you, they want to enslave you. No, we want to live our lives. We want to be, free. We want to be able to have, access to things, whether it be social media, healthy foods, you name it, whatever you want, and we do not want to be under this authoritarian ruled dystopian 1984 George L. Orwell type society, and it's vastly turning into that. So now is the time to stand up. Now is the time to speak out. Now is the time to continue to be a light in this world. And that's why I, do these podcast episodes, bring people on, share, different points of view, different aspects from across the world of people who understand what's going on, people who comprehend what's going on, people who are trying to be a light in this world, people who share on all different types of topics because are, we as humanity are here to take a stand for each other. to be a light for each other. And this world is so divided. This country is so, you know, involved in this, that, and the other. And so many people just don't comprehend what's going on. And it takes change, and we can be that change. So I just wanted to come on this week, just share my experience, to say, hey, look, now is the time. There is no other time to stand up, to stand for human rights, to stand for humanity. I'm not saying don't enjoy your life. I go out there and I enjoy my life too, you know, but be a light in this world. Continue speaking out. Continue saying, hey, look, this isn't right. We want humanity to win. Because in the bottom line, we outnumber them. We have the power to be the solution. So be that solution. Be a light in this world. Go out there and be a difference maker and stop with the political nonsense and live your life and stand for humanity. Much love to everyone. If you haven't subscribed to this podcast, please subscribe. I got some great guests coming up, great topics that I'm going to discuss in the future. And I am all about, being a light in this world. Much love. Peace.